How are y'all dickheads doing? It is I, once again, Dick Record, coming to you live from the studio in New York City. I'm about to record my farewell to the format for Modern Horizons 3. I didn't realize it at the time, much like with the previous set. I did my last bit of sealed and/or drafting of Modern Horizons 3 a little bit ago and wasn't aware. You know, we're already in Bloomborough. The preview season's actually over. Pretty soon, content creators, unlike myself, you know, people that actually have a name in the industry, are going to be doing that content creator showcase. One of these days, I'll get invited to it if I stop calling the CEO of Hasbro Chris Cocksucker. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. But more importantly, come over to twitch.tv/DickRecord. Link in the description where you can catch me streaming video games, leather crafting, and other sort of nonsense every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from around 4 to around 8 Eastern Standard Time. But with that out of the way, we only have 31 packs of Modern Horizons 3, and that's because I did a disproportionate amount of sealed for this format. I did 4 attempts at that win-a-box. I went 1 and 2 twice. Sorry, 3 times. And that felt really bad. And all of those matches felt like I basically didn't draw anything, and my opponents did. And then when I went 5 and 2, which was 1 win away from getting a box, it was the exact opposite. I drew my stuff, and my opponents just sat there and did nothing. Sealed for this format was pretty bad. I should actually stick to my script, too. I have a script for this. Let's see. It was fun, though. This set was fun. It was a fun draft experience. Not so much a fun draft form. Not so much a fun sealed format, rather. Part of that is because, you know, like when you draft, you get to have more control over everything that you have in your deck, whereas sealed is sometimes, oh, cool, I got absolutely nothing. But it wasn't unheard of for you to, like, if you built your deck correctly, draft Kozilek and then play it on turn 4, or turn 5, sorry. And then your opponent just kind of looked at your board and was like, well, good game. The format was very synergy based, but it wasn't unheard of to see an opponent playing something that wasn't an advertised draft archetype in the format. Like blue-white was supposed to be energy flyers, but sometimes your opponent would just play blue-white exalted. Or blue-black instead of blue-black draw 3, you might see your opponent do blue-black control. And that's fun, you know? There were a lot of like hidden archetypes within the set, right? Green had a pretty good ramp package, which was very good because those Eldrazi Titans are very mana hungry, you know? I also think it was great that you could play this on Arena. Because this set has no MSRP, but the boxes cost twice as much as standard format boxes. Packs could be upwards of $10, so drafting would be close to 30-ish plus tax depending on your LGS, and that kind of sucked, you know? So it was nice that they put it on Arena and let you draft it for the same cost as any other draft format on Arena. Conversely though, I know at least one person who told me he had no idea where this fit into Arena and was upset that the Assassin's Creed stuff wasn't on Arena. And it's like, well, the Assassin's Creed stuff isn't a draft set, you know? But it also made me realize that I didn't even know where this actually went other than Timeless and Historic. I thought it was part of Alchemy, and it's not. Lord of the Rings was part of Alchemy. So that's sort of weird. And I guess maybe it's the fetch lands they thought was too much for Alchemy. Who knows at this point. Also, the inclusion of this set onto Arena feels like a very solid push from the devs and from Wizards of the Coast to getting Modern onto Arena. I remember reading on the Reddit that as of this set, because of the printing of the set, there was a few Modern decks, at least 3, that you could just play wholesale on Arena in Timeless. So the more cards that they put in here, right, the better it's going to get. Let's see. So that's pretty cool, you know? When Timeless first arrived on Arena, I just kept building my old Modern decks, and I was like, come on, I'm gonna play Rakdos Shadow, you know, now that what was it, Luris was in a format that she was not banned in. I was like, well, we already have Death Shadow in here, and I have the one from Zendikar, the 2-mana Shadow. I could build it, you know? And I did, and I played a little bit of it, just all the fetch lands. And well, not all the fetch lands, but all the fetch shock Thoughtseize stuff. But yeah, you know, like, especially because Modern Horizons 3 more or less rotates the modern format significantly, creating new archetypes and pushing out middling archetypes. They could, in like a few months, I could see them going, we're going to add Modern to Arena. We're going to put some more Modern sets in there. We're going to try to push out more Pioneer sets. I could totally see that happening. And that's, I think, going to be great for the Arena client. Mainly because I'd love for them to finish out Pioneer, even though Pioneer is very, very based heavily on these past couple of sets, because power creep is real, my friend. As for cons, I'm trying to see if we could draft it, if we open up another one, but yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed, in draft there was this one card called Writhing Chrysalis that when you read it the first time, it's like, this doesn't seem that bad, but on the table, ridiculous. It ended up being like a 2-mana 4/5 in a lot of cases. Galvanic Discharge, this is actually seeing Modern play because it's a silly card that, if you play it correctly, might as well read Split Second on it as well. You get to choose as to how much energy you're going to throw at your opponent's creature, and then you get to choose after they choose whether or not to interact with it. And once they choose not to interact with it, great, you just kill with it Xaxes. I bet newer players probably don't, and they expect to be able to, like, you know, do pump effects or counter spells after you choose how much energy to spend on it, but that's not how this card works. And, you know, I at first thought you got to interact with it after the fact, and I punted to that, you know. Let's see. Eldrazi was pretty strong, as it should be. Those spaghetti monsters should be the biggest, most disgusting monsters. Let's see. I didn't like Sealed in this format. It was too Feast or Famine. Part of it was because there were two cycles of rare lands, which when you're doing Sealed, essentially are just blank bombs, or blank cards in your bomb slot, right? There's also Phyrexian Tower and Ugin's Labyrinth. Phyrexian Tower, not so much, but Ugin's Labyrinth can also feel like a blank in a rare slot. But you could just open packs that would have up to 3 rares, which is okay, right? And Sealed, you would get somewhere between 6 and like 10 rares, typically. All of my Sealed pools during the winner box felt very middling at best, which felt even worse when I saw someone online post their silly Sealed pool where they got 3 Guide of Souls and another white rare, and I was like, what the hell? I never get that lucky. You got 3 of them? Like, I wanted to puke. I wanted to throw up. Oh god. You know, let's see. And then there was a ton of cards like Disruptor Flute or what was it? I think Winter Moon, Harbinger of the Tides, that are just, they're not meant for constructed. I mean, sorry, they're not meant for sealed. And so when you get that in like your pack one, pick one, it's just like, that's not good. Not good at all, right? And then you would just go, I'll take this common Writhing Chrysalis and force this, or just splash for it. Because even if you were in red or green, you could splash for this and it would feel fine. If you got it out on turn 4, and then like now just had a 4-mana, a 2-mana 4/5, and you spent like the token mana to ramp something out the next turn, you felt pretty good. This did so much in this format. It was silly. This is one of the silliest cards. And it was a huge stain on an otherwise fantastic format, you know. As the format moved on, people sort of changed, they adapted their strategies. Early on, like, Eldrazi was seen as like, this is the deck, and everybody was trying to force Eldrazi, and so the non-Eldrazi colors, the non-teamer colors, white and black, were getting ignored. And then we found out that, oh yeah, like, actually, I forgot about this, the cycle of medallions, which were also just blank rares. You know, like, then we found out like energy aggro is actually really good, you know. So even cards like Solstice Zealot, just because it comes in and it gives you 2 energy, is actually fantastic in that energy deck, right? But one major problem with this set, and especially with how Arena does best of 1, and we're gonna get a little bit into Shuffler Truther territory here, and I hope that this doesn't affect anybody, any of my listeners, any of y'all. And I don't want you to become shuffler truthers because I'm not a shuffler truther. But I do wish that in Best of One you did get a fully randomized hand. However, in Best of One, the way that the Arena client interprets the modal double-faced cards that are a spell on one side and a land on the other side, like Bridgeworks Battle here, is that they're not lands at all. They are just spells. So, for those of you that don't know, when you're in Best of One, the shuffler, the Arena client randomly gives you two hands of 7 cards, but it looks at them first. Well, it doesn't give it to me. It makes 2 hands, 7 cards. It looks at them first. Whichever has a better ratio of lands, specifically lands, to spells based on your ratio of lands to spells in your deck, whichever one looks better, it'll give you that one, right? So that usually equates to like 2 to 3 lands. That usually equates to 2 to 3 lands in your opener, and it's supposed to lead to more games that you don't feel bad about, right? Because you get to play for your first couple hands, and it's supposed to prevent frustration. But the Arena Shuffler does not see these cards as lands. It only sees them as spells. So if you're playing, let's say you're lucky enough to have 4 Bridgeworks battles, and because of that you decide you're going to cut 2 lands, 2 forests from your deck, it's now going to make your opening hand based on your 15 land deck. So it might actually try to give you like more 2-landers, right? And it won't even count these Bridgework battles as lands. It's so weird. Again, this is only a problem in Best of One too, which is another reason why I hate Best of One, in addition to the frustration of just losing to variants and then not being able to have a second match against your opponent, right? It's just another thing that I hate about Best of One, and yet it's the premier format, unfortunately, on Arena. Ooh, a Null Drifter. Look at this thing. Oh, so pretty. I love Null Drifter. And the last thing I want to say about this format before we head out is Nadu can go to hell. I absolutely hate that card. It's one of those... They keep printing the Simic value engine that costs 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 generic mana. And it's always like, draw a card, get a land? Maybe gain life? What? Why? It looks like there's a typo on that card. It's silly. I think it ruined the Pro Tour and a bunch of other... It's definitely one of those cards that's going to get banned. It's just why? Absolutely hate that card. I hate its existence. And yeah, let's open up this last pack. I'm nowhere near filling out the collection of Modern Horizons 3 on here, but that's okay, because Modern isn't fully on Arena yet, and if I ever need to, you know, I have like so many wild cards, and I have so much vault progress that I know what to do with. I can just craft my decks. And hopefully you're at that that part of your Arena collection as well, where you don't have to worry about you know, like playing their game. Highly recommend drafting more if you don't already, because that allows you to just play the cards, which you got to do in this format. It felt nice. It felt like it had a good speed, and I'm glad for that. Especially, and I was complaining about it earlier because I recorded this on the same day, especially after Markov Manor and how fast that was as a draft format, where you could lose on turn 4 in the slowest format. It just doesn't feel good. But yeah, that's my collection. If you're watching this and you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out a ton. Tell your friends that I call Hasbro CEO Chris Cocksucker. Tell Hasbro CEO Chris Cocksucker I call him Chris Cocksucker. There is no way he got through high school without getting bullied incessantly over that name. Like, I feel for the guy, but he's also, you know, he's made some questionable decisions at the cost of the people who work there, and especially last Christmas. I'm not going to forget that. You guys shouldn't forget it either. The people who make the game that you love, you know, sometimes they're seen as expendable when they're not. Sorry to end this on a down note. That wasn't my plan. That wasn't. It was just a short video. Really enjoyed this. If you want to still draft it, you should. You definitely should. If you want to draft it in paper, that's also kind of cool because you can get some fetches, right? Put them in your commander decks or your modern decks, right? But that's it for me. You guys have been awesome. Never change unless for the better. I want you guys to have a wonderful rest of your day. And oh, if you're so inclined and you're on the Twitch, please come over to twitch.tv/DeekRecord. Link in the description where you can catch me streaming video games, leathercraft, some Magic the Gathering content, and other assorted nonsense every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from around 4 to around 8 Eastern Standard Time. With that out of the way, I'm out of here. You have a good evening, folks.